Greetings, everyone. This is Payman Lorenzo, host, your friend, the coach. Today, I have a very special guest, my dear friend, John McKay. Mr. John McKay is me and him. We go back to 5, 6 years ago in China, Hangzhou. We
Yes, sir.
got to meet him there and connect and host the events. He was always there in my events. We had a lot of time and get to know him
Yes.
over time. And and we reconnected a year and a half ago, and and then he's been attending a few of my events, and now today, finally the stars are aligning, and here he is. He's going to be sharing his story. So, John, brother, welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir. You're one of the greatest leaders I know, and certainly a man of international business regimen. We obviously work together in China, work together in Canada as well. And
Yes,
one day I'll make way back there to Asia to see you in person. But it's always a pleasure. You always have my support, and I'm always uplifted every time I talk to you.
thank you. I appreciate those kind words,
Yes.
straight from your heart to mine. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And
Yes.
yes, we have some unfinished business in Asia, wherever this beautiful planet life
Yes.
is going to take us. Who knows, Brazil, Argentina, here in Vietnam, and
Wherever
wherever.
Wherever we go, we'll do good business,
Oh
we'll
yeah.
uplift the community, and we'll have some fun.
And have a good time. Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So tell us, we're going to talk about your business in a moment. But first and foremost, for people who don't know you, tell us, who's John as a man, as a human being?
That's an excellent question. So
Thank you.
John McKay is a servant leader. I'm a very strong technical person, strong interpersonally. I like sports, as you know, and so I combine life skills, education, international business experience, and sports, and try to do my best at work with clients at the job site. Also helping out with volunteer programs with my fraternity globally, but also just trying to make a difference in people's lives, whether it's at work, whether it's doing volunteer activities, whether it's just having fun, whether it's having some business ventures with you, just trying to make a difference.
Love that. Love that. We're going to unpack all of that.
Okay.
But first, the way I like to start my conversation is I'd like to ask you a series of rapid fire questions to further get to know you as a person. Ready?
Okay.
So tell us, John, what makes you happy?
What makes me happy is taking off on my to-do list, doing planning and executing the plans, and then making people happy.
Love that. Love that. What makes you smile?
What makes me smile is having fun, solving problems, and just helping people.
Love that. Now let's take the happiness factors a couple of notches higher. What makes your heart sing? What sets your soul on fire?
What sets is probably solving problems and improving quality wherever I go.
Love that. Now on the other side of the spectrum, what makes you sad and angry?
What makes you sad and angry is when people are closed-minded and they can't, the old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. I wanna make them drink, or at least encourage them to drink. So what makes me sad is when the solution is right in front of them, and they just don't want to take the drink.
Absolutely, absolutely. What scares you?
What scares me is I wouldn't say scare, but what makes me anxious to produce is just wanting to make sure that companies succeed, my family succeed, and I succeed.
Love that. Now, what is your number one personal superpower?
My number one personal superpower is the ability to investigate and solve problems, come up with corrective actions, preventive actions, doing risk management and anticipating things. So both while a lot of people in the world are playing checkers, I say I'm playing chess.
Love that, love that. Now, what is one thing that you used to value that you don't value anymore? Or not as much as you used to?
Yeah. I used to value being able to go anywhere when I wanted to and being able to do anything where I wanted to. And fortunately I've been able to do a lot. So I value that less, and I look for ways to have maximum impact now.
Awesome. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, what is one thing that you did not value before and that now you're valuing more and more?
One thing I didn't value as much was the need to have good food, healthy food, and constant exercise. Growing up, always being an athlete, and especially playing American football in college, and just being a good sprinter. I was always in good shape. I always could eat whatever I wanted, and I could always just be good and healthy. Nowadays, I have to plan it out like a project. I have to figure out what I'm going to eat healthy wise. I have to figure out, okay, when am I going to work out and how I'm going to work out. And so those things just take a lot more planning than what I used to have to do.
I remember back one time in Hangzhou, I was hosting an event and you asked me order my food. And when I
Yes.
saw your list, you had ordered a meal, a feast for 5 people. I said, "Wait, John, is this who's this?" It's all just for me. So just for you? You can eat
Yes.
all of that? You were eating like a
Yes.
horse, my friend.
And those days have come and gone. Now
Okay.
what I find is because I don't have as much time to exercise, I
Ah,
therefore have to cut back, on the food. So I eat smaller portions and I eat more higher healthy portions.
love that, love that. Now, tell
Yes.
us, what are your three non-negotiable core values?
One would be integrity, making sure that people follow, let's say, laws and regulations and do things in an honest way. The other is the deal, the agreement or the deal. If
Hmm,
people have agreement or deal, let's honor that, or let's find a way to work through it if a change has to be made. But the idea, I'm going to honor my side. I'm hoping people honors their side of the agreement. If something needs to change, let's negotiate it. And the last thing is making sure that we're in my industry, especially protecting the patient, protecting the subjects, and not hurting anyone.
love that, love that. Now, what is one thing that you'd be willing to die for?
My family. I
Hmm,
definitely want to die for my family and making sure they're protected, making sure they're safe, and making sure that they're well taken care of.
absolutely. I'm with you on that. Now, I know that I have a feeling that you kind of like traveling. Am I right or
Uh,
right?
you know I love traveling. I love traveling. I think you're the only person I know in the world that likes traveling either as much as I do or maybe even more. So yes, that's something we share very much, Louisa. We
Yes,
both love traveling. Yes.
absolutely. Traveling is my religion, my drug, my DNA.
Yes.
We can do an
Yes.
entire podcast episode.
We
Oh,
sure
sorry, we
can.
can do an entire podcast just on travel,
Yes.
my experience,
We
your
sure can.
experience. We
We
can do
sure
that another
can. We
time. But for now, I want to take you down a different type of traveling, down memory
okay.
lane. Go back
Okay.
to when you're growing up. You know, when we're kids, people around us, family, relatives, neighbors, teachers, friends, ask
Okay.
us, "Hey, John, what do you want to become when you grow up?" What was the answer to that as a young boy?
As a young boy, my answer was an astronaut.
Ooh,
I wanted to be an astronaut and explore and things like that. Because I always loved science fiction. I always loved like space and obviously loved things like Star Wars and things like that, Star Trek. So I wanted to be an astronaut or an explorer.
I love that. Me too. I love being a pilot. Actually, pilot was my nickname.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know, one of my first nicknames. Awesome. Now, growing up, what was your relationship with school? Did you love school or did you hate school?
Oh, I love school. So I come from a long line of educators. So my grandfather was like a school superintendent. My great grandfather was. My grandfather was a school like in charge of the school principal. My mother was a school teacher. My grandmother was also a school principal. And so imagine going to the same school where your mother's right down the hallway teaching another class, and if you act up, the teacher will say, John Jr., do you want us to get Mrs. McKay? And obviously, Mrs. McKay was a small thing. Mr. McKay at home, once he got home from work, was a bigger thing. So I told my friends, look, I can play with you on the playground, but when it comes to the classroom, I got to be serious. I have to be one of the best students. I have to be on good, best behavior. And oh, by the way, I want good grades for my own sake, but also I like achieving. So I was always good in school, always a bookworm, always because I met the expectations. Some people resist expectations. I love meeting them and I love embracing them and I love succeeding. So, and the other thing is that one time I walked into a classroom and when I was older and I saw these kids misbehaving, And I thought to myself, I as a little kid, I'm like thinking, I'd have punched these kids out, Miss Baby, for my mom like it. And so I always said to myself, and I would say to my friends, imagine that's your mother teaching us. Treat her with respect or treat him with respect, just like he's your parent. So school was one thing I always did. And I've over time I've translated that into being a good trainer, being a good mentor. I actually was an adjunct professor every now and then, and when I go through industry, maybe I'll do more teaching, more training.
Love that. Love that. Wow. What was your favorite and least favorite subject in school?
My favorite subjects were science subjects and math subjects by far.
Oh,
And so fortunately I loved them and they came easier to me and it's something that I really excelled at. And so I really gravitated toward what's now called a STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. Those were my favorite subjects and subjects that I was very good at.
and were there any subject you could not stand?
Well, not so much not stand, but after writing two or three papers, I was ready to not write as much and read more. So, I mean, English is obviously very important and it's very important skill, but there's only so many papers you can write. I'd rather be solving problems, crunching numbers,
Yeah,
getting a calculator, doing programming something. But, it wasn't so much I didn't like it, it just was not my favorite subject.
absolutely. So I got to know you a little bit when we were in China together. So were
Yes.
you're you were at the time the life of the party. So now imagine we're in the same class here in grade 10 and grade 11. What kind of
Uh-huh.
person were you back then? Were you the shy, the reserved, the geek, the superstar, the athlete? What kind of student were you
Yeah.
back then in grade 10, 11?
I was always a scholar athlete, and
Ah,
that's what I try to be now, even in the workplace. So I was always gifted athletically. I was always gifted scholastically, and so I liked excelling in both because they actually helped each other. The better I was in school, the better of a player I was because I played strategic sports that ran
sure.
plays like baseball, football, track, things like that. But also some of my best coaches were also my teachers. And so I saw that as a symbiotic relationship, being good in sports and being school good in academics.
Absolutely. Sports are for me is one of the best schools of life because I learned the
Yes,
biggest
exactly.
lesson like teamwork, respect,
Yes.
following leadership through sports.
Yes. You were always my mentor for soccer. And
Thank you. Thank you.
we always talked about starting a soccer academy together.
Well, it's could be possible in the future. Who knows?
Yeah.
Speaking of excelling and being
Uh-huh.
popular, when you were in school and in college and all that, were you popular with the ladies? I
Well,
can't know the answer, but I want to hear it from you.
since I'm a married man right now, I have a muted response, and I'll just
Uh,
answer yes and leave it at that.
absolutely, absolutely. Oh yes, oh yes. I wish I had.
Only a single guy would ask that on the podcast.
Hey, doesn't matter because it's about when you were growing up. It's
No, you're
fun.
right. No,
Yeah,
I try to be popular, and what I found, Lorenzo, was that you know just everyone wants to be respected, especially women. Everyone wants to be treated well, especially women, and so you know, being good with women or to say ladies enabled me to be a better player, a better person in the classroom because it's all about respect. It's all about meeting people's expectations, and it's all about treating people fairly and like they want to be treated.
absolutely, absolutely, completely on that with you. Now let's move forward. Oh, sorry. Do you remember what was your very first job and how much you get paid the first time you worked a job?
Do you mean like a high school job or like
Any
professional
job,
job?
any job. The
So
first
so
time that you
what
worked.
the first time I worked, I was a tutor, actually in third grade, believe it or not.
Whoa.
So yeah, so what happened was I was doing very well in school, and the teachers asked me to tutor some other students, and I didn't have a servant leadership mentality at that point. I was like, why would I tutor other kids? Like, what's in it for me? And like they say, well, you'll feel good. I said, okay, I feel good anyway. They said, you help people. And they said, oh, by the way, we'll pay you. And I was like, oh, you'll pay me? Okay, sure, I'll tutor some students. And so my first job was just tutoring math, helping students learn better in math and help them understand math. And I really became a stronger tutor when I took algebra and geometry and things like that. Subjects that fortunately, I was gifted by God to understand very well, do very well, and I loved it. And I just found that other students just didn't love it as much, or they struggled with it, or just couldn't understand it. And sometimes, it's tough to learn in a group setting where you're one-on-one. You can learn. I still tutor to this day. I mean, even as a consultant, I'm really a tutor, if you will.
Absolutely. A coach, a business, whatever. That's a
Exactly.
tutor. Different way.
Exactly.
So how much did you get paid that first time, remember?
Oh, it was a long a long time ago. But I was paid more than any job a third, fourth, or fifth grader could ever have.
Yeah, I can
Yes. So
imagine.
I was paid at twice the rate of like someone doing a babysitter because
Ah,
I asked him. I
oh,
asked them what
beautiful.
they were making. And I didn't tell them what I was making, but I was like, hey, that's like three times what someone would pay a babysitter.
Did they try to bribe you with burgers and pizza and
Oh no,
chocolate?
fortunately I was paid by the school.
Ah, okay.
So what happened was the school had a program where certain students could qualify for tutoring, and the school paid me directly. Now later on, when I was in high school, I did more entrepreneurial things, and I received money direct from students, and
Mhm.
there were a couple of times people tried to bribe, but I'm like, no, it's straight cash, and it's before we get started.
Beautiful, beautiful. So you're a married man.
Yes,
How did you meet
happily married man.
how did you meet your wife?
I met my wife on a business trip
Ah,
when I was on business. I was actually on business for my company as an employee, but I also took vacation time and I helped my father's business out. He was running an auctioneering business, and I helped him out. I was going to the Nashville Auctioneering School.
so what made you realize that, hey, she's different? And yeah.
They say you can tell right away, and that was
Mm,
true. I mean, when I met her, I'm Catholic, she was Catholic. We come from strong families, so there were so many things that was besides just being beautiful and drop dead gorgeous. We'll start with that, but beyond that, it was just similar, same religion, same family upbringing, or very similar. I could tell she was very close to her brothers and sisters. I'm very close to my brother. Close to the parents, respect your parents. And wanting to make a difference. We both talked about things we volunteered for and wanted to make a difference in the community and help people. So there was just so much similarity, that we
beautiful.
basically hit it off, and it was good chemistry too.
Beautiful. What is one quality or trait about her that made you see, oh, she's the one?
That's an excellent question, Renzo. The idea of opposites attract. So I'm
Mm,
very technical, straightforward, straight path, whatever. She is a creative genius. She thinks outside the box. She's very sensitive as far as like thinking how people feel. And so what I noticed right from the start when recording, she balances out her strengths, balance out my weaknesses and make me a better person.
love that, love that, love that. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. Now, moving forward, tell, how was your path from the moment you left school to now? Was it pretty much straightforward, smooth sailing? Once you into one lane, you were set for life, or was it more like turns and twists, like a roller coaster?
It was very much an opportunity driven. It was very much the lesson of preparation meets opportunity.
Mm,
So basically, starting as a resident assistant in college, I was already managing technical people on my floor. I was a charter member of an engineering and applied sciences interest house at Penn State University. And so I was already managing other engineers and scientists. So that by the time I first started, I was out of the starting class at my company, I was the first one to become a manager because I had 4 years of managerial training as a resident assistant, and the people there recognized immediately this person has management abilities. So I went into the management ranks and was an individual contributor, but then a manager. And then from there, what I try to do was always prepare myself to be one step ahead. I looked at trends and I tried to get training or certification or assignments in those trend areas so that by the time an opportunity came up, I was already ready to step into the opportunity.
beautiful, beautiful. Speaking of opportunity, when did you realize that, hey, this is my path, this is what's best for me, and you just went all in?
Well, I'm still finding it out now. I'm still going with that. But basically, I learned that starting on in manufacturing. That is very important in manufacturing to be good in quality, to be good in environmental health and safety, to be good in all the regulatory areas, and to be a complete like plant manager. And so what I learned was to be good in manufacturing, you have to be good at all the functional areas that report to you. So if you think about it, it's like a CEO should be somewhat good in all those areas. Doesn't have to know them, but should be good in them. But I wanted to know them and get to learn them. So I always try to learn a different skill set, sometimes by choice or volunteering, sometimes because I couldn't necessarily hire that person. So someone had to pick it up and I picked it up. And other times I saw that that was a trend that was going. So trend in environmental health and safety, trend in quality, trend in like tech transfer, trend in and working overseas. So I had 5 expat assignments. And also trending going from pharmaceutical to medical device to diagnostics, working in the chemical industry, supporting aerospace and automotive. And so knowing that, okay, within there's certain things that are transferable across all those industries, things like quality assurance, things like regulatory affairs, things like environment, health, and safety, so good supply chain management. And then I learned about operational excellence when I was studying at business school at Wharton and then eventually stayed with that. And so just looking at trends, looking at the way the industry is going and being prepared so that when more opportunities open up, you're already ready, fully trained and ready to go.
Love that. Love that. You mentioned the overseas assignment. How did you end up in China?
Good question. So I learned a long time ago from I've had several good mentors, and I consider you a mentor as well. And so basically, one of my mentors told me, John, if someone presents you with an opportunity, it may not seem like a good fit at first, but explore it. At least explore it. At least hear it out and at least see what it's about. So a recruiter contacted me one day and said, I have a company in China that's interested in you. I'm like, huh? They said, yeah, they looked at your background and they want to interview. I'm like, okay. And he asked me a question I never forgot. He said, would you ever consider working in China? A young John would have said no, but after I've been mentored, I was like, I never considered it, but why not? Let's explore it. And then I eventually explored it and eventually came, and it was one of the best assignments I've ever had. I met you there, and that alone was good. But I was working for the largest Chinese pharmaceutical company, at the largest pharmaceutical facility in the world as the senior vice president of global quality and chief compliance officer. I wound up evenings and weekends supporting the community, helping out with the community. So it was a very, very rewarding experience. And it
Wow.
was one of those kind of things where I even was the first and still only expat to get my Chinese driver's license. One of the hardest
I
things,
remember
one
that. I remember that.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. That's how I came to Hangzhou so frequently.
You were
So,
driving.
so I,
Yes, yes, yes,
and
yes.
matter of fact, I drove you around a little bit, if you
Yes,
remember,
yes,
in,
indeed.
in, in the company car. So a lot of success in my normal job, but a lot of success in getting my Chinese driver's license, learning enough Chinese to pass that test, and
Wow.
even my driver, the CEO, and some of the colleagues that were driving could not believe I got the Chinese driver's license. It was hard, but it was one of the kind of things where you want something hard enough, you figure it out, you set up a plan. I looked at like getting another certification. What's the body of knowledge? How do you study it? How do you master it? And how do you succeed in it? So that's one of my proudest moments. I still ask people over there, hey, one person said I failed it 3 times and I gave up. I'm like, well, if you wanna know, I'll give you some tips. He said, that's okay. I'll just catch public transportation
So
or
you learned
did it.
so you learned Chinese and you wrote the test, driving license test in Chinese?
Well, what happens is, fortunately, in China, like places in Europe, as you know, and even Canada, a lot of the things are in pictograms. But what you have to do, you have to be able to learn some signs that aren't in pictogram. You have to
Yeah.
understand some of the Chinese language. So I learned what I call a traffic Chinese. What happened was my CEO said one thing I'll never forget. He said, that's good, John. You're learning our culture, you're taking Chinese, but we have 1.45 billion people that can speak Chinese. We need your English. So he said, don't spend too much time learning Chinese. I said, well, can I get my Chinese driver's license? She said, yes. So I learned what I call traffic Chinese.
Yeah.
That's all, not enough to really complete that many good sentences, casual sentences, but I mastered the body of knowledge you need to know to get a Chinese driver's license. And that's what's the key.
So many questions came to mind. I just want to say something before I forget it. How
Mhm.
do you compare driving in China versus in the US?
It's the safest place ever once you learn the rules. First of all, the rules are unique and there's some differences, but here's why it's so safe in China. As you know, living in China, everything is on camera. So any violation you have, so I often wonder why don't you see that many traffic police officers? Whatever? Well, that's because the cameras are checking you out, recording you, anyone, and so people know that that's to happen. So people behave themselves very well in China. They obey it because if you drive too fast or you switch lanes you're not supposed to, or if you don't have your signals, or if you don't have things up to date on your thing, it's a picture you receive on WeChat the ticket, and you got to go pay it, or else you could
Yeah,
couple. As most countries, you build up a certain amount of points, you lose your license, and so
yeah,
that's one to me. My license represented freedom. So not only did I want to, as a safe driver in general, I wanted to have a good driving record. I didn't want to lose that license. So
sure.
I just found that driving in China was the safest place on planet Earth to drive,
Especially in Hangzhou. Hangzhou people drive,
especially in Florida.
and Guangzhou is a bit more chaotic,
Yes,
but
but it's nothing like California or Mexico.
oh, I can imagine, especially the road rage.
Yes.
I don't recall seeing road rage in photos of China. Or maybe I've, no, I don't think I've seen it once.
No, you wouldn't have that. Because person would be on camera and they would get not only a traffic ticket, but as you know, they would lose social credits.
Yes.
Yeah, so no, there's no road rage in China. I mean, I mean, if they do, they contain it in their cabin of their car where it should be,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then they
yeah.
go move. Yeah,
Exactly. Wow, fascinating. We can do an entire episode on China. We might do that next time. But
yes,
the way that you end up in China is very similar to mine. When you were speaking it, I was literally having goosebumps. Just like you, I
yes.
was having a conversation with a recruiter back in the summer of 95. No, not 95, 2015. And he asked me
Uh,
one question. He said, "Hey, would you be open to coaching football, soccer in China?" I said,
yes,
"Absolutely,
yes.
because football
I
is my
remember.
religion." And he said,
Yes,
okay. I didn't think anything about it. And the guy sent me an email within 24 hours, a job offer in Hangzhou. I didn't even look at the pay. I just signed it. And I said,
yes.
let's go. I did it. So that's how also I
Great
ended up in
opportunity.
China. Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
yes. You were the Hangzhou soccer expert. Everyone came to you. Love your
Yes,
soccer parties, and when
yes,
the World
yes,
Cup was around there, I
yes.
remember coming to Hangzhou often for your parties.
As well as the wine events, because wine is a big,
The wine, yes, the wine events, exactly.
I grew up
Yes.
in near Bordeaux. So it was a passion of mine. And love to share this passion of mine with the locals. Uh,
Yes, you were a wine distributor.
yeah, that was a part-time passion project. Yes.
Yes, exactly.
One thing
I've
that
got many good bottles from you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, that was good times indeed. So tell us about your business, your impact, your role. How are you making the
Yes.
world a better place around you and around the world?
Excellent question, Renzo. So currently
Yeah.
running a global consulting company. I'm considering going back to work for another company in the meantime. But basically we do everything in what's called the GXP area. Good X practice, so good clinical practice, good manufacturing practice. And so I basically help companies in four big bucket areas. One is helping them get ready for FDA and other regulatory agency inspections, helping them with their product development work, developing products from clinical trials all the way up to commercialization, helping them with product approval, and then helping them with like supply chain issues, so supply chain optimization. Making sure there's suppliers in place, doing supplier scorecards, supplier qualification audits, and looking at ways of doing tech transfer, things like that. So basically, mostly focusing in the pharmaceutical industry, but I also work in medical device. I work for Bayer and Stryker. Those are the two big companies I work for in both of those spaces, also working in diagnostics. I just find it just more global opportunity with pharmaceutical than the other
Yeah.
ones. Just because the pharmaceutical industry is bigger, just bigger than
And
devices.
opportunities as well. Of course, to
Yeah,
come
more opportunities. Yeah, I mean, so yeah.
and leverage
Yep.
American expertise and to help them improve their
Yeah.
own. Absolutely.
Yep.
So
Exactly.
you've been placed in China, in India as well.
Yes.
Uh,
India, Germany, and UK, and also Brazil.
Brazil. Wow, we're in Brazil.
Yes. When we talk about Brazil, so in Niterói, Brazil, and that's probably the closest thing you would know, but Niterói, Brazil, near Rio de Janeiro. But we also have facilities up
Niterói.
in
Is it Niterói?
Niterói, yeah, Niterói.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, and also near Rio de Janeiro, a place called Camaçari, which is absolutely
Yeah,
gorgeous.
yeah.
Salvador, which is good.
Wow.
So a lot of I would say when I was in Brazil was probably I felt like I was literally at home.
I felt the same too. Yes.
Yeah, I mean the Brazilians treated me like I was their cousin.
Yes.
It really, really, I mean, everyone and all those expats treated me very well. China treated me well, India, Germany, but the Brazils were at a different level of treatment. It was like, they really, really, really treated me like one of their own, and it was just a good time. I mean, they taught me how to play true soccer, right?
Oh, yes.
They're
By the way,
like
it's
they're
not
like
soccer, it's football.
I
Football.
know but
Football.
they let me call it
Yeah,
soccer there. So,
absolutely.
but
Wow.
they said you're not going to come all the way here to Brazil and not learn jeu de ball. You know what that is, right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
indoor.
Oh,
That's a
yes.
whole nother level. I mean, that ball
Oh,
comes
yes.
whisking at you. When that ball goes by you, like you feel the wind in your head zzz,
Oh,
zip by
yes.
you. And so I said, well, I'll start off as goalie. They said you may not want to be goalie first. I'm like, wow, let's watch this. How quickly that ball bounces off. And I was like, they say, because if you learn how to play here, you'll dominate outside.
Absolutely.
Just because the ball's not, it's like in American football, we have what's called like this in indoor football called arena football.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's everything smaller, faster, and more compact. So if you can do it on that one, when you get to a bigger one where it's slower, the ball's not moving as fast, you got more room for error, you're just going to be better. So yeah, so we played that every Wednesday night. So here's what's nice about these expat assignments. Because I'm an athlete, I tended to gravitate towards athletic people, and I up my athletic game in these countries. So in Brazil, I learned football or soccer. Well, in China, I learned badminton. And we play badminton every Wednesday night.
Yes.
I mean, I got so good at badminton. It was like they have courts. They moved you up to the court. So I like Star Wars. Here's a Jedi example. First, I would just use anyone's badminton racket and send it, or I would use the house badminton racket. And finally, my badminton mentor, who was the best player out there, he was so good he thought about turning pro, and he actually tried out for the Olympic team and barely missed the cut. But he said, John, I'm going to take you get your own racket. I'll make my own racket. I said, yeah, I'm going to take you to my pro shop. We're going to make you a custom racket. I said, am I ready for that? He said, you're going to be ready for that. So I went there and I had the racket made and
Wow.
building and I got better athletically in a sport that I normally wouldn't play.
Amazing, amazing,
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. So you learned football in Brazil,
hmm
badminton in China. Did you
hmm
get into cricket in India?
I did. I did. I
Oh,
learned cricket in India. And it came very natural to me because I played baseball in the United States.
yes.
So
Yes.
I was a good batter. I was a good, hitter. Um,
Yeah, wow.
and as well as I was fast, so I could run back and forth pretty fast. So because I ran track and yeah, so I was very good at cricket.
And what did you pick up in Germany other than drinking beer? I'm just joking.
Soccer as well. They play
Oh yeah.
solid soccer.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Of course they call it football there, but they let
Yeah.
me call it soccer. They know what I'm talking about when I say soccer, so I say soccer. Yeah, but
So
play soccer there, and but they also like racquetball, so I play some racquetball,
yes.
but mostly soccer. They're big soccer fans.
So what's next for you, John, in terms of overseas assignment?
Well, I may not take another assignment, but I will certainly entertain it. I learned never say never, or at least look at the opportunity. But right now, I basically have a number of projects I'm doing or have coming up. Some in Australia, some in South Africa, and some more in China. If they things break through where I don't have to do things remotely. So I'm always looking for opportunities. And one thing is fortunate being an American and being in the United States is that we have we have the largest pharmaceutical market. So a lot of companies, a lot of countries are looking to have their products come here. So it's always a
Yeah.
good opportunity. Yeah.
Here's a tip. Not a tip, but just, a country that's booming like there's no tomorrow, right here
hmm
in Vietnam. And there's a lot of money put
Yes.
in Vietnam.
Yes.
So
So I
don't sleep
actually
on it.
I won't. I got asked by a good colleague of mine to help out a company in Vietnam to source syringes into the United States.
Wow.
So I'm working on that right now. Can't say the company, but yeah,
Of
working on it
course.
right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
yeah. But so I won't sleep on Vietnam. Yeah.
Beautiful. Wow. Well, whoever it is, I know you'll excel. And hey, if I'm in the area, I'd love to meet you again.
Well, if I come anywhere near Asia, we're getting together somewhere. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
That goes
yeah,
without saying, my friend. It
yeah.
goes without saying. We have
That's
some
if
unfinished
and
business.
if you come to Canada, the United States, you know we're gonna get together. So
You're in San Diego, right?
San Diego, yes, uh-huh.
I have lots of relatives there. So,
You should
yes,
come. You should come.
absolutely. It's part
Yeah,
of my plan. Yes. Awesome. So, John, you know that one thing that is really dear to me is zone of genius.
zone of
So,
genius.
what is
Yes.
your zone of genius, my friend?
So my zone of genius is being able to assimilate into new situations, being able to understand, respect, and blend in with the culture, and help teams out. Basically, be a team player and help teams out. And again, that's the combination of scholastics and sports. I'm a true team player, and so I like being part of a team, and I like helping the team get better.
Love that. Love that. Love that. You know, there's a saying, John, change your story, change your life. So, when
Yes,
you're at your lowest, most painful, challenging time chapter of your life, how did you change your story internally to change your story externally?
that's an excellent question, Lorenzo. So first of all, I say some prayers.
Oh,
and and then I count my blessings and I go to two sources. I have a portfolio of projects and things I've done, and then I have several playlists on Spotify. I call them hype playlists, and these are playlists
mm.
that help motivate me. Some are
Are they
like dance
music
songs,
or motivational
music,
talks?
music.
Ah, music. Okay.
So there are some talks in there. Matter of fact, some of your talks are in my hype playlist
Really?
for podcasts. Yeah, podcast
Wow.
talks. But so
Love
I'll
it.
listen to a talk if I have a lot of time. But if I have a short period of time, then I'll listen to just some music. So I like different genres, different types
Mhm.
of music, and so I have different categories of music that I listen to, and those kind of things really put me at least in a very strong state of wellness, a state of feeling blessed, and a state of invincibility, feeling invincible.
Mm, love that. You mentioned prayer. So I know you're a man of faith. Have you always
Yes.
been a man of faith, or is it something that you get closer to? You reconnected with your faith later on in life.
Yeah, it was always a manifest. So I grew up Catholic. I went to Catholic school till like fifth grade until we moved to a different area. It was too far away for me to go to Catholic school, but I always did the sacraments, and so very strong Catholic. And I just found that it really helps to pray and to live a Christian life, because if you help others, then isn't that what it's all about, right?
Oh, yes. Big
And
time.
I know as your podcast expert and running your business, leaders of the spirit, you firmly believe in that. You're a good mentor for that.
Leaders without. Absolutely. Thank you.
Leaders from
Speaking
heart,
of
yeah.
inspiring, what would you say is a cause that you're deeply passionate about that is dear to your heart?
Yes, okay, that's easy. So environmental protection, conservation, and I would say just e ecotourism. So every time we go on a trip, even if it's not a true ecotourist trip, I try to do something volunteer work to either for the Catholic Church or like through my fraternity events. We have a lot of fraternity things, or through one of my favorite things is ecotourism, where you go and you volunteer, whether it's doing like here in California we have it's called Adopt a Highway, whether it's like a beach
Wow.
cleanup, whether so one of my things I want to do now is to go on a trip where I'm rebuilding coral reefs in Australia. No, where you're collecting
Amazing.
coral, you're building a matrix, you're going down and putting the coral there. There's so much happening to our world environmentally that we need not only to try to protect it and reduce pollution and things like that, but we need to build it. We need to improve the infrastructure. So doing helping the environment is probably one of my favorite things, because so many people in the world are affected by bad environmental conditions.
Love that. Love that. Love that. Listen, John, there's so many more things we can unpack, but we may do a
Yes.
part two and three. But let's
Yes,
start to
sir.
wrap things up for now. To finish, I'd like to
Yes.
ask you another rapid fire series of questions, but this time on advices. Ready?
Okay. Yes. Uh-huh.
What's the best piece of advice you've received so far in your life?
to listen and ask questions.
Oh, I love that. What's the worst piece of advice you've received so far?
Someone once told me that he and I, it was work for another company. He and I are like we're like wolves among sheep, and we should act that way. I was like,
Oh boy,
I'm like,
I see.
okay. So I was like, okay, well, is that are you a bad wolf or a good wolf? You know. So, but
Exactly.
anyway, his his comment was, we were on the West Coast and we're both from East Coast. He said, don't you know it's a different vibe? I said, yeah, but they're cool. He said, no, we're like wolves among sheep. And I was like, okay,
Mm.
well, we don't have to eat them, do we? He laughed.
No, just barbecue them, grill them, you
It's
know.
right, right, exactly. He was basically trying to say, he was almost like trying to say, use your East Coastness to dominate these people. It was kind of
Oh,
what he was trying to
I
say.
see. I see. I
I was
see.
like, that's I said, we're part of the team, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So awesome. Imagine that you were blessed with a time machine. You can go back in time and sit face to face with an 18-year-old John. What's the number one piece of advice you would give to him, knowing all that you know now?
good question. Probably, I would say to have more patience.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like as I went on, like a long time ago, I didn't have much patience. I learned patience over a while, and what I learned was that okay, sometimes people just aren't ready for change. Like I'm a change agent, and I know how to do change control. That's a system in pharmaceutical. I know how to manage change, and my parents taught me to handle change very well. And so when there's a change for the better, I used to get impatient when people would like, have you ever read the book Who Moved My Cheese?
Yes, I heard about it.
So
Yes.
I'm definitely sniffing scary in that book. So I would get frustrated at the him and her
Yeah.
characters. And I learned over time that, well, leave the writing on the wall and they'll eventually catch up to you.
Wow. Awesome. Yes, yes,
Yes.
yes. So, um, do you have your own podcast?
I don't, but I'm thinking about it. And
What's
and
the
and
one?
I know you're the person to come to.
Thank you. What's been the main reason that you haven't started your podcast, especially a man like you?
Um, Probably not knowing how to monetize it.
All right.
In other words, I work at now in my company, I work on billable hours. So
Yes.
just not knowing how to monetize is probably the biggest. But I've been to a couple of your presentations and I've learned how to do it better. So
Yes.
I'm thinking about it. I'm giving it a
Yeah.
hard thought.
My program is all about making money, getting your first and next client in as
Yes.
little as 30 days if you have no audience. I got you covered, brother. So,
Thank you, sir.
welcome. Imagine you have your very successful podcast, and today you're
Mhm.
interviewing the most special person in the world, and that is yourself.
First I would first I would start with you, by the way, but go
Oh,
ahead.
thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Honored.
Yes.
But even more special than me, you're interviewing yourself. So, what's
Mhm.
the first question you want to ask yourself? Don't think too much. First question that pops to your mind.
First question that pops into my mind is what advice would you give someone who's just starting out in the industry?
And what's your answer?
And so what my answer is to basically constantly learn,
Mm,
constantly seek new opportunities, and and don't be afraid to let one job go to do another job.
mm,
As I matured, I learned that sometimes you're not meant to finish the entire project. If a promotion comes or another assignment comes or the company needs you on something else, then hand that off like in a good relay race. Don't feel the need to hold on to it because there are bigger and better things, or at least different things that you need it on. So the idea of of not, don't worry about holding on, and don't worry about, well, it's only 80% done. If someone else can take it over the finish line, but the company needs you to start something else, or they have a bigger need somewhere else, jump right on that. Don't drag your feet. You know what I mean?
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. If someone wants to connect with you, what's the best way to do so?
Either through LinkedIn or phone number or email.
And what's your LinkedIn?
I don't so it's just look John McKay up on LinkedIn. I don't remember the name, but it's I remember
I'll
the
put it in the show. Don't worry. I'll put it in the show.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Awesome. Awesome. Listen, John, absolute pleasure
Thank you, sir.
having you. And I learned a few powerful things about you that I didn't know. So
Yes, thank you.
awesome.
And
And
you're an excellent interviewer. You always have been.
thank you.
And what I realize is that you've been interviewing people every time I've ever been with you. Because you have a gift of that. You have a gift of asking questions, finding out information. And as I look back on all the wine tasting events you had, all the soccer events you had, and just all the business meetings you had, you literally were a great facilitator, a great organizer, and a great
Thank
relator
you.
of people asking them questions.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, I love bringing people together. I'm a connector,
Yes,
I'm a
you
cheerleader.
are.
And one time someone asked me, what would be your ultimate dream, not just job, but dream vocation? I said,
Yes,
for me, I would love to be the universe's interviewer, going to every soul in this universe and ask him,
you are.
what's your story?
That's
Just one
that's
question. What's your
that's you.
story?
That's you. That's you for sure.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's me.
And by the way, I also want to acknowledge you for your excellent TED Talks you did.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes,
Yes, that was a
absolutely.
big milestone that fell on my laps
Yes,
literally
yes,
because of this, because of my
yes. And
podcast.
I
Yes.
still watch that for inspiration.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Speaking
Absolutely.
of that, you need to do one.
I would love to do one. I hope to do one day.
Yes. It
Yes.
starts with this first because that's going to give you the practice and the platform, the visibility, the credibility,
Agreed.
and get you there. Absolutely.
Agreed. I
But
agree.
you're already a great communicator, a charismatic speaker with a
Thank you.
breadth of wisdom, a wealth of experience. So it would be
Thank
a
you.
no-brainer for any TED platform to host you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Very welcome. Listen, John, absolute pleasure. I salute you. You're a cheerleader with a heart. Keep
Thank you.
shining your light.
Thank
Keep
you.
blessing the world, your presence, your impact,
Thank you,
your
Lorenzo.
gifts. Always remember that you, my friend John McKay, you're a beautiful gift.
You are too, Lorenzo.
Thank you,
Thank you
my
for
brother.
everything, and I appreciate you being my best international friend. Thank you.
Very welcome. Take care. God bless.
Take
Cheers.
care. Thank you. God bless.
Cheers.
Bye now.